Hello and welcome to today's discussion on GS Paper 2, Week 11. The first question was Project Masoom is considered as a unique foreign policy initiative of Indian government to improve the relationship with its neighbor. Now, the second part of the question says, does the project have a strategic dimension? Discuss. So basically you can see that the question has relevantly two parts and both the parts needs to be discussed. Now in this context, first of all, let us discuss what is the Project Mausam. The Project Mausam is nothing but an initiative of the Ministry of Culture and that this is implemented by Archaeological Survey of India. Remember this is the most important point for your prelims. But for the mains, you can simply write this is an initiative of the Ministry of Culture to re-establish cross-cultural linkages, that is historic, maritime, cultural, and economic ties with 39 Indian Ocean countries. Next, it says that this world would stretch, that is the Indian, that is the Mosam. You can simply say that the Project Mosam would stretch from East Africa, or we can say that Project Mosam will cover East Africa along the Arabian Peninsula, past the southern Iran to the major countries of the South Asia, and hence to the Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Now, this is the basic route of the Project Mosam. East Africa, you can basically see the East Africa, then we can go for the southern Western Asia. Next, we can see the South Asia. Next, we can see the Southeast Asia. Simple. Rather than making this a complicated statement, you can simply say Southeast Asia, South Asia, Southern Western Asia, and East Africa. See, so first of all, this is the basically a foreign policy initiative. That is, we are reconnecting with the previously connected, or we are re-establishing our historical link. But what is the strategic dimension? See, strategic dimension is number one that it would be utilized to counter the China's OBOR. OBOR is nothing but One Belt, One Road initiative of China. India is strategically trying to utilize the Project Blossom to further reconnect with the neighboring countries so as to counter the OBOR initiative of China. Next, to increase the trade cooperation between Indian Ocean Maritime Sea. This is also important. It is also a strategic move because with the increasing economic tie, your defense will also get strengthened. This can further augment the BIMSTEC Indian Ocean region, the IOR, ARC, again, etc. Fourth, further, it will help to prevent the tussle in the Indian Ocean amongst the superpowers. See, the Indian Ocean region has already become a ground of tussle between the superpowers. As you can see, China has recently it has got a base in Somalia. It is again trying to get a base over here in Iran. On this scenario itself, you can see that the Diego Garcia Island. Remember that Diego Garcia Island is located over here in the Indian Ocean. This is important for the geography mapping. The Diego Garcia Island is also the hub of the US and UK. So basically, as you can see, it is becoming a power tussle between the larger between the superpowers. So in this context, we can see is that this can further help to prevent the tussle between the Indian Ocean in the Indian Ocean amongst the superpowers. Conclusion, hence, strategically, the Project Mosam has the potential to increase India's stature as a global power in the Indian Ocean region. This is an important statement because at the end of the day itself, we are using the Project Mosam to strengthen our defense. Now, next question was evaluate India's changing relationship with USA. This is a 10 markers question. See, this is basically I've drawn a mind map kind of a thing so as to make you understand. But most students thought that in the answer you have to write this mind map. Please do not do so. Write in paragraph. Simply you can say that in the introduction itself you can say that India-US relationship has gone through ups and downs. There are both positive aspects as well as the negative aspects. Sorry, I have this is your negative aspect. Kindly do not write it positive. This is your negative aspect. See, what was the first of all, what were the positive aspects of the India-US relationship? Sorry, this is your negative aspect. Yes. Positive aspects, first of all, we need to take into account the defense cooperation, that is the increasing defense cooperation. Recently, India has been granted the strategic trade authorization status. What is the strategic trade authorization status? As per this, US can import India top-notch technology or the high-tech equipments, but without any license. This is number one. Number two, license basically understand that they means it's basically a criteria that how you are basically going to utilize this weapons or how you're going to utilize the strategic weapons. So US will give India, but it will have no such conditions attached to it. Next comes your COMCASA. What is this COMCASA? COMCASA says Communication Compatibility and Security Agreement. The COMCASA was this agreement was signed in the 2+2 meeting of the India and USA. Remember that the 2+2 meeting is nothing but the meeting of the Ministry of the External Affairs, Ministry of Defense with the Secretary of Defense and External Affairs of the US. Remember that in US they are secretaries, but in India there are ministries. So it was the result of this 2+2 that COMCASA was signed. What is this COMCASA? Why this COMCASA? What will happen is that the Indian that the Indian Army will be able to utilize the US communication. What is the communication tool? Basically, they have a communication frequency or a communication channel which is highly encrypted and which is highly secretive, and that basically only those countries that are partnered with them can utilize it. So hence, India has got the agreement under the CONCASA, that is, it can use the US communication platform. Next, it is that international cooperation. US support to India against the Pak-based terrorism. Similarly, recently US has supported India to Chinese aggression. Now, recently there has been a bigger concept that is your health diplomacy between India and USA. While India supplied HCQ, that means hydroxychloroquine, US supplied ventilators to India. So this is some of the positive aspects. But again, within the relationship, there is a negative aspect. What is the negative aspect? Removal of India from the GSP system. What is the GSP system? GSP is the generalized system of preference. Via this GSP system, what was happening was that this is India, this is US. Now, if India was exporting goods to USA, then US was basically imposing low tariff on India. But on other hand, if US was imposing goods to India or exporting goods to India, then there was no condition attached to India to impose low tariff. Means India can either impose low or high tariff. But what happened was that US started complaining. It says that it is not competitive for US companies. So basically, what US did that it removed the GSP or the Generalized System of Preference. As a result of which, no more Indian goods that are being coming from India will have low tariff. Means US is free to completely impose any tariff or anything over it. See, basically, tariff is nothing but your tax for the simplicity of understanding. Next is your conclusion. Now, you can see is that despite of having both the positive and negative aspects, the Indo-US relationship has been growing stronger despite of the global crisis. Simple. Next, in the post-reform period, Odisha economy is growing fast, but poverty among the masses has not reduced perceptibly. It says illicitly. As per the Niti Aayog SDG India Index 2019, Odisha is the second amongst the bigger states in terms of number of population below the poverty line. This is important. Remember this. What are the reasons behind it? Reason being prevalence of the high dropout rates at the secondary and the higher level education, lack of vocational education, prevailing health crisis, patriarchal society domination. This is important. Now you can see that how patriarchal society domination is basically responsible for the poverty condition. See, patriarchal society means that a society which is dominated by the male of the society. In that context, what basically happens is that the women's economic power has been reduced considerably because they do not have the liberty to take decisions. Every decision is taken by the male person in the household, and every decision is basically in favor of the male persons in the household. Recently, most of you would have heard of the feminization of agriculture. Feminization of agriculture is nothing but growing number of agricultural laborer, mainly women in the agriculture, because men in generally are migrating out of the agriculture sector into the cities and towns for the employment. But the piece of the land that is left in the village are basically managed by the women of those by the women in the village. Now, in this context, what happened was that though women manage the land, but the right or the title deed or the we can say that the name in the patta below was basically of the men and not of the women. As a result of which, all the benefits of the that is agriculture welfare scheme were basically entitled. Who were entitled? The men were entitled rather than the women, and women could not get a direct access to it because of such problems. So this is called as the this is so basically you can see is that this is the domination of the patriarchal society, how it has resulted in the poverty-like situation. Next is the economy, over dependency on the primary activity. That is that mainly we are an agrarian state, means majority of our population is still dependent upon the agriculture. Uh, Today, even during the COVID pandemic, what has happened is that again, majority of the people are again going back to the agriculture. We have manufacturing sector, but our manufacturing sector is not that adequate. We need to increase the manufacturing sector so as to tackle the poverty. So hence, remember this point that we are over dependent upon the primary activity when compare in comparison to the secondary activity. Secondary activity is nothing but your manufacturing, and primary activity is nothing but your agriculture. Next is that the absence of employment opportunity. Natural causes. Prevalence of the natural disaster like cyclone, flood, etc. Geographically, undulating topography. Undulating topography means in Odisha, you can see there is a vast region which is under the means there are mountains, forest, etc. So as a result of this, development in such topography has become very difficult, especially in laying down the roads and railways. What are the administrative causes? Administrative causes leads result basically in the prevalence of the poverty and trade deficit. As a result, government welfare program rarely could reach the poor. Simple. Conclusion: the Odisha government recently with the 5T initiative aims to tackle the problem of the poverty. That's the basic simple conclusion that you can be. I hope you got a clarity. But remember this 5 points needs to be put up on. Next, the sluggish economic development in India has basically been due to the deficiency in the physical and the social infrastructure. See, physical infrastructure are basically seen as your transport infrastructure, that is your roads and railways. See, transport infrastructure basically is deficient. Second, you can say that unsafe road. You can also say that unsafe road. You can also say the unsafe railways. High cost of operation. What is this high cost of operation? Example is that railways operational ratio is 98.44. That is, railways spend 98.44 rupees to earn rupees 100. Then what is the social infrastructure? Social infrastructure, remember, that is two things. That is your educational and that is your health infrastructure. Now, in this context, in the social infrastructure, you can say that first there is lack of toilets. See, as a result of this lack of toilet, what happens is that there is a high dropout rate between the girls. There's a high dropout rate amongst the girl students. Why? Because after a certain period, after attaining your puberty, they suffer menstruations, and due to the lack of toilet and the absence of toilet, most of them drop out of their education. Again, remember one more the thing is that lack of water facility, especially in the toilet, especially in the drinking water facility. Hence, even students find this difficult and they shift out of the school. Next is that lack of R&D in the educational institution. This is another major factor. What is R&D? Research and development in the education sector. This is also the reason why this educational sector is not sufficient. Next, with respect to health, health you can say there is a lack of beds. It's approximately we have a very shortage of the beds. Again, we have the lack of doctors. It is 1 is to 11,000, whereas the WHO recommends, WHO says it must be 1 is to 1,000. Next is the lack of hospitals again. One of the examples is that I have always mentioned this, that the Juang tribe in the Nagara Hills, they have basically the nearest hospital to them is 30 kilometers away. That is the Tata Memorial Hospital in Juang. at the Nagada Hills. The nearest hospital is 30 kilometers Tata Memorial Hospital. Next. The next question was, what is LSE? Why there is a recent face-off in India and China along the LSE? See, in this question, I have basically divided the question very properly so as to make you understand that how diagram carries mark. See, in this, if you are writing what is the LSE, basically you can write the LSE is the boundary between the India and China, and it's approximately 1700 kilometers, etc. That will give you a 1 mark. The next 1 mark will be given to you by this diagram. Remember this. And then the recent face off, for this you'll get 2 marks. So basically with this you can score a 4 mark. First of all, it says that the incursion of the Chinese soldier into the Indian side of the LAC at the Galwan and the Pongan Tosa. This is first and foremost reason. Second, India leading the WHO, that's World Health Organization executive chair, in investigating the origin of the COVID cases in India. Next, Chinese strategy to dominate Asia. This is important point. Understand this. See, China thinks that once it defeats India or once it establishes that it is no more India is no more a rising superpower, so it will have the upper hand to to suppress the entire Asian region. Basically, what happens is that with the coming of the Narendra Modi government and with the continuously increasing surgical strikes upon the Pakistan, and even the surgical strike was conducted in Myanmar, so India has established itself as a very large growing power. And in this context, remember that when when China basically China is thinking that it can defeat India, and once it defeats India, it will become a larger power, even in Europe and even in Asia, because India, when compared to certain European countries, it also remains a bigger power. So that is the Chinese practice, and that is nothing but the salami tactics. What is the salami tactics? The salami tactics was recently discussed. Let me tell you about it. The salami tactics. It says that key first spread chaos. What is chaos? Chaos means that is means what we can see, that basically there is absence of any kind of international law order situation. Second is that he conquer bit by bit. So Chinese strategy, salami strategy was, let us first spread the COVID virus across the world, and secondly, let us defeat one nation after another. So as a result, you can see that he all of a sudden during the COVID pandemic, you can see that the Bhutan crisis began, then crisis with India, then crisis with Japan, then crisis in the Southeast Asia, in the South China Sea, etc. started to rise. This is nothing but because of this Chinese salami tactics. That is, it wants to become a regional superpower to surpass the United States of America. Next, what is this one country two system? See, one country two system status of Hong Kong. The one country two status. Sorry, just a second. I just need to have some water. See, this was formulated in the early 1980s by Deng Xiaoping during the negotiation with the United Kingdom over Hong Kong. See, till 1997, Hong Kong was under the United Kingdom. But this is Hong Kong, and this Hong Kong was a part of the United Kingdom till 1997. So basically, China wanted UK to give back Hong Kong. Now, in this context, what happened was that UK said that yes, you can take Hong Kong, but there needs to be an agreement. And this agreement was signed by Deng Xiaoping, as per which the entire China, that is, there would be that is, the Hong Kong will have the administrative autonomy. What is this administrative autonomy? That is, the political ideology of the communist China would not be bestowed upon Hong Kong, or Hong Kong will not be forced to accept the communist policies of China, and hence Hong Kong can have its own policy. As a result of which, what happened? Within this communist China, we had the Hong Kong administration that was highly capitalist. So recently, what happened was that this agreement basically says that as per the agreement, there would be One China, but the administration in the Hong Kong would be autonomous for 50 years. Hence, Hong Kong to remain autonomous till 2047. But recently, Chinese formulated the new security law to take over Hong Kong administration. See, today it is 2020, means before itself from 20, means prior to the completion of the time period, China wants to take over the Hong Kong, which China recently has done it already. So it has violated the international agreement. Next, discuss the role of the United Nations related to the economic development, humanitarian assistance in various countries. See, first of all, first statement is that the United Nations was established in 1945. Sorry, the UN was founded in 1945 to establish the world peace. Prior to the United Nations, remember that we had the League of Nations. This League of Nations, that is the United Nations, is nothing but the successor of the League of Nations. So why a United Nation was formed? Because the League of Nations was not able to prevent the World War II. Hence, the United Nation was formed. See, how does the United Nations helps in the economic development and the humanitarian assistance? See, UN performs its job of economic development and humanitarian assistance through its agency. Hence, the question basically says that how the UN does this job. So basically, we have to highlight the role of these agencies in fulfilling the job. First of all, the role of the FAO, it helps in modernization of the agriculture. Role of the UNESCO, promoting cultural heritage, hence helping the tourism industry. Next, we have the UNCTAD, promoting globalization of the trade and commerce. Next, humanitarian assistance. UNICEF helping women and children in distress. Then we have the FAO and the WFP. WFP is nothing but the World Food Program. Now, both these institutes are basically the main job of them is to tackle the hunger. Next, we have the WHO tackling the epidemic like the polio and Ebola. And in this context, please, I have highlighted, please do not write COVID because who has become a severe failure, means who has witnessed a severe failure in handling the COVID. I have mentioned that what was the failure of the WHO with respect to COVID in the recent notes of uh, of the international institutions. Kindly do refer to them. Next. Next question was discuss India's stand on the Israel-Palestinian conflict. See, the Israel-Palestinian conflict is basically with respect to the territory. This is your Gaza Strip, this is your Western Bank, and then it's your Golan Heights. So basically, these are some of the remaining parts of the Palestine. Entirely, this was your whole of Palestine. But after the 5 days of war in the 1960s, what happened was that Israel occupied most of the parts of the Palestine, and only certain parts of the Palestine are remaining today. That is your Gaza Strip and the West Bank and the Golan Heights. No, basically Golan Heights is not the part. It's basically it was taken away from the Syria. Now, India has always stood for the peace between Israel and Palestine. India's approach include number one, non-interference in the internal matter of the Israel and Palestine. This is important. Remember that. India has always remained an outside player. It always wants peace between them, but never to interfere within the internal matter. Extension of the humanitarian assistance support to Palestine. This is important. India has always extended humanitarian assistance. India has never supplied Palestine with any kind of arms and arsenals. Strengthening relationship with Israel in every sphere, that is defense, economic, so that India can become a major player in the West Asia. Next, in general, conclusion is that in general, India's approach has been a balanced approach. Simple. 3 points, one intro, one conclusion is more than enough. Next. Next question is that how the new ink developed by the CSIR, it's actually CSIR, not NPL. Rather, the NPL is a part of the CSIR in the ongoing. Sorry, again, it's ongoing. Sorry, it's going to combat the problem of the fake printing of the passport and counterfeiting of the currency. Remember that the NPL is the part of CSIR. See, both CSIR, that is the NPL of CSIR, has developed this bioluminescent security ink. What is this bioluminescent security ink? That is, the ink shows two colors when exposed to light of certain frequency. That is, ink is white in color when placed under the normal white light. When placed under the UV, it turns red. When you turn off the UV, it basically turns green. So hence this will add a new security feature to the notes and the passport documents. Simple. Next is that key. What are the benefits of the lithium ion battery in comparison to other batteries? See, first of all, what is lithium? Understand this. See, you do not have to write this, but this is basically for your understanding. If this question comes, it's basically for 6 marker. You have to write that the advantages of lithium ion battery are this, and this. Next, what is lithium? Lithium is nothing but a soft silver alkali metal. Lithium is the lightest of all metals, and it has the greatest electrochemical potential and provides the largest energy density for the weight. First of all, lithium stores about 10 times as much energy as the lead acid and 5 times as much energy as nickel cadmium. This is important. That is, it saves more energy. Number two, extremely lightweight and required less maintenance and also rechargeable. Next, it has multiple application and it is now being used from mobile phones to laptops to long range electronic devices or electric vehicles. Again, it is environmental friendly. Last but not least, they are capable of being miniaturized and used in devices like implanted pacemaker. So hence, it is also applicable in the health sector. So these are some of the important points of the advantages of lithium when compared to the other batteries. Other batteries, basically the lead acid batteries. That will be all for today. In case of any doubt, you can ask me over in the Telegram channel. Thank you.